Hi friends, thanks for coming back. As you can see, I'm no longer sitting on a beach in Mexico. In fact, it's been a couple weeks since I recorded a video. I'm going to try to not make this video too long, but it is going to have two parts. When I was in Mexico, something happened that may change my perspective on my health journey, but I think that's kind of separate from my weight loss journey. And I know you may not be here for all of the extra stuff. So, part one, I'm going to tell you about the last two weigh ins that I've done and everything that goes along with that. And then, part two, I'm going to explain some things that are going on and what happened in Mexico and then maybe going forward. And if you don't want to stick around for that, that's fine. I respect that you're here for my weight loss updates. No shame in dropping out after that. I really don't have a problem with it. It's okay. But I do feel I need to be honest about what's going on with me. And so I've decided to go ahead and share that. So, part one, my weight loss or not, right? So when I last spoke to you, I was in Mexico having a wonderful time, eating all the things, and there were all the things. We had the fried everything, and we had fajitas, which were pretty good, and we had tacos. The shredded beef tacos were excellent. We had chips and 3 or 4 different kinds of salsa. We just had all kinds of goodies. Somebody brought a plate Mariel. Give her a shout out. She brought a pan of Rice Krispie treats and a pan of brownies, and they were both perfect. And for one day for lunch, I had a piece of brownie and a piece of Rice Krispie treats. I'm not kidding. That really was my lunch. And so I wasn't worried about it. I was on vacation. I did not pause my medication. I really didn't want to do that, but I wasn't going to worry about what I was eating. I was having fun, and that's what I was there to do, and that's what I did. I did do some prep work beforehand that I think was smart. I did take my clear protein, and I would fill that up in my hydro flask with ice, and when we were sitting on the beach and whatever, that's what I was sipping. And so that was really nice because with the other stuff, Rice Krispie treats, I don't think have a lot of protein in them. So I knew I was not going to meet my protein goals. So having the clear protein really, really helped to have that, just kind of sip on it for a few hours. And I did take my shakes, but the blender was not great. And I made a shake one morning and I didn't do anything for me. So a couple mornings I did put a scoop of my chocolate protein shake into my coffee. So that helped. But everything else was vacation food. And there were a couple of nights where I knew ahead of time they were going to have shrimp, and I don't like shrimp. So I took some ham and some Dave's Killer Bread, and I made sandwiches. And so I had like 3 or 4 sandwiches, which is a lot more bread than I normally eat. But the other good thing that I did is I took some of my Chobani yogurt cups, and we had some fresh fruit, and so I mixed in strawberries with that, and I had that sometimes as a snack or as like a side to my lunch. And so that was good. So I did do some things right to try to keep up my protein, and we had lots of fruit and we had vegetables, so I really wasn't worried about fiber, but everything else was just vacation food. And I enjoyed every single bite. Didn't get nauseous, didn't get constipated, did nothing. I had no symptoms at all the entire week. Even when I came back home, nothing. So I just enjoyed it. So then on Monday, I'm like, okay, we're going home today. I'll get back on the wagon. But on the way home, we decided, it was an impulse decision, to stop at this little place called the Space Age Restaurant. It's in a little town called Gila Bend in Arizona. It's on the way home. And this place is like from the 1960s. It's just all outer space kind of stuff in there. And it's basically diner food, which is fine, but not a way to get back on the wagon, right? I did order a BLT on sourdough, and I got the 50-50 side, which is onion rings and French fries, and I'm a sucker for good onion rings. What I did is I took basically the insides, most of the insides of one half of the BLT, and I put it on the other half, so really it was just half of BLT, because when I looked at that, I thought, man, I can't eat all that. And I had a couple of onion rings, and I had maybe 4 or 5 French fries, and they were really, really good. But I just couldn't have eaten any more than that. So much for getting back on the wagon on Monday. So I didn't even try. Oh, and I took a picture with the little green man in the lobby when you first walk in. I know, kind of darky, but So got home Monday night, and that's my shot week, my shot night. So I took my shot, got up the next morning, and got on the scale, and this is what it said. So yeah, up 0.8 of a pound. And it's okay, because going into a vacation, I told myself, don't stop your medication, but eat how you want to. And I ate like I was on vacation, and now that's over and I can move on. And I've given myself the grace to accept the weight gain, but I got to be honest, it was, this was the first time I have gained weight since I've started Zepbound, and it wasn't fun, but I'll get over it. And it's okay. In fact, I think I'm already over it. So that still gave me a loss of 33.9 pounds as of the end of my week 18. So the following week was Halloween, but I'm not a big candy person, and that didn't really affect me that much. But what was interesting is that my calorie count was higher this past week. So before, when I would go on vacation or whatever, and I was trying to lose weight because I was in a calorie deficit and working out a lot, if I had had a week like that, or just even a few days like that, eating vacation food, after I got home, I would really, really want more vacation food. I would be looking for the brownies. I would be figuring out how I could just have a few more onion rings or French fries or chips and salsa or whatever. And I didn't feel that this past week. But at the same time, I did not forget to eat lunch. So if you recall, like I said, before I went on vacation, those weeks leading up to that, I was totally forgetting to eat. I was having to really remind myself to eat. And I did not have to do that this past week. I didn't have cravings like I would have not on a GLP-1, but my brain was remembering to eat. So I think that's because I had eaten so much salt and fat and simple carbs and that kind of stuff for a week that I think my brain was thinking, where's the food? And it wasn't raging hunger. It was just a suggestion. I think we should eat lunch. I think it's time to eat lunch, or it's time to make dinner. So I didn't forget to eat this past week, which was really unusual, but my calorie count was way up by about 200 calories a day. In fact, one day was almost 1,600 calories, which is really high for me. I normally can't eat that much, but I didn't get sick. I didn't feel sick. Like I said, I had no symptoms from either leftover from the week before or last week eating a lot more. It just really kind of weird. At any rate, so Tuesday morning, got on the scale, not knowing what to expect because I was a little nervous because I had gained weight the week before. And this is what it said. So I am shocked. I'm down 3.2 pounds. And I don't know how that happened because I definitely ate more last week. So I don't know if on vacation I was just eating a lot more salt And so some of that was water weight, that, that 0.8 pounds. I don't know. I don't know if just not eating empty calories and not eating all the bread, and I don't know. Because I definitely ate more last week than I have the past month, and I lost 3.2 pounds. I don't get it, but I'll take it. I'm happy about it because now I am 37.1 pounds down, and I'm thrilled with that. I'm slowly creeping towards 40 pounds down, and my goal had been to hit 50 pounds down by the first of the year. And I thought with gaining the weight the week before, wow, try saying that again. No, slowed down my progress a lot, and maybe I wouldn't reach the 50 pounds down. So I know it's still quite a ways to go, but hopefully I'll get there. So those are my two weigh-ins the last 2 weeks. That ended week 19. And now let's get into part 2 of this video. So this is a little bit more difficult, and I've started this video multiple times because I didn't know how to say all of this, and I hope it's not too long, and I'm going to go back, I know, and edit out as much of the rambling as I can, so please bear with me. I think the best way to explain this is to explain where my pain started with my legs and my knees. 8 years ago, one day, out of the blue, my legs started to hurt. Within about 24 to 48 hours, I couldn't walk. Seriously, could not walk. If I had to leave the house, I was on crutches, and that lasted for about 6 to 8 weeks. There's a little step to go from my back patio into my family room, and it's maybe 2 inches, and I couldn't move my leg in a way to get up that step without having to do some really weird stuff. It was excruciating pain. I had no idea what it was. Yes, I went to my doctor, went to my GP, not the same GP I have now. And he looked at my legs, and there's no swelling, there was no bruising. He had no idea. And I went to another doctor that somebody recommended, which was a waste of time. He was more of a sports med kind of guy, and he didn't know either. And he basically told me that I needed to lose weight and exercise more. Now, keep in mind, at that time, I weighed about 40 pounds less than I do now. And I was working out before the pain. I mean, once the pain hit, everything stopped. So I thought, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Then I went to an orthopedic surgeon. Not a torn meniscus, and which would have been unusual to tear 2 meniscus in both knees at the same time without an injury. Same thing about an ACL or an MCL tear, so no torn ligaments. He even showed me on the films. He's like, there's no arthritis in your knees. So he didn't know what it was. And so he sent me to physical therapy. And the physical therapist thought that maybe it was tight fascia. That's how he described it. And I thought, okay, well, that doesn't make any sense either, but what do I know? He had me do some stretching exercises, and that helped. And then he did some very deep massage around my knees and on my legs. That helped a little bit, but not much. After a couple of years, it started to get better, but I was in a lot of pain. And then the pandemic hit, and the world went to Netflix and chill. I did too. And I became very sedentary, and I gained more weight. The irony is that as I became more sedentary and gained more weight, the pain decreased. So sports med guy just absolutely didn't know what he was talking about. Also, over the last several years, I've had a couple other things that I've been dealing with that I blamed on my age, getting older, being sedentary, not exercising, gaining a lot of weight, I had some IBS symptoms over the past several years, and I didn't get any kind of treatment for it. I just kind of dealt with it. I knew what to expect, and so I just kind of dealt with it. At some point, pretty much after the pandemic, after the shutdown, I became very fatigued, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And I don't mean sleepy. I mean, it was difficult for me to get up out of a chair. It took all of my strength to get up out of a chair, or to get up off of the couch, to get out of bed in the morning. It was painful, and it was just exhausting just to get out of bed. And so about 3 years ago, I went finally, I know, it took me forever. I couldn't live with it anymore. And I went to my doctor, not the same one as I had told you before. This was a new doctor. I said, maybe it's low estrogen. And she said, well, let's do some blood tests and find out. And what we found out is that my vitamin D was super, super, super low, like really low. So, of course, I looked that up, and one of the symptoms is fatigue. So she put me on a supplement, and I thought, great. All the literature says that after a few weeks, you start to have some of that fatigue resolved. And so I'm like, great. In a couple months, I'll feel great. Well, a couple months went, and I did feel a little bit better, but it really didn't resolve the fatigue. It sort of took the edge off of it. So during this time, my pain was getting better, and my fatigue was getting a little bit better. And about, I don't know, 3 years ago, my daughter had some medical issues, and got her into some doctors, and she got into the Mayo Clinic and finally saw a rheumatologist and an endocrinologist and some other ologist. And they finally decided that what her issue was fibromyalgia. I started doing some reading up on that because it's my daughter, and she did too. They gave her a lot of really good information. And I remember a conversation she and I were having where I had my phone sitting on the desk. I was on my computer, but she was on the phone on the desk, so I had her on speakerphone. And she was telling me about some stuff she had learned. And one of the things that she had talked about was, or she had learned about, was pain points on your body. And with fibromyalgia, when you press it, it's a sharp pain. And she said, and they're all over your body. And I said, like my legs, because even as my pain in my legs and my knees was getting better, if you pressed on my legs, like on my thighs or on my calves or around my knees, it felt like a sharp pain. And that had been from the beginning. It felt like a sharp pain, not like pressure, but like a knife. And she said, yeah, like that. And I said, yeah, but I don't have that everywhere. It's just on my legs. It's not like I've got it on my arms. And I squeezed my arm, and I realized that's how it felt if I squeezed my arms as well. And then I started doing it in other places, and I started feeling that sharp pain where it should feel like pressure. And so I thought back to what the therapist said, and he thought it was my fascia, thought I had tight fascia. And so I said, okay, I guess that makes sense, because if it's just my fascia, then that would be all over my body anyway. Now I'm wrapping this up to get to Mexico. In Mexico on Friday, some of us decided to get a massage. Now, I've never had one before, but they told me ahead of time that when they massage your neck and your shoulders, it's a deep tissue massage, and they get the knots out, and it hurts a lot, but you feel better afterwards. So I expected it to hurt, and it did, and everybody said it did. And about an hour later, a lot of people are saying, a lot of my friends who had gotten the massage were talking about how they were sore in their neck and their shoulders, but their range of motion was better because they had gotten the knots out. And I thought, I'm not feeling that. And I realized after a couple hours that the pain had spread out my shoulders and down my back. And a few hours later, it was like wrapping around my ribs. And my friends are telling me that's not normal. I just felt worse as the day went on. Saturday morning, I woke up, and even before I got out of bed, I realized I was not feeling well. I was worse. And I got up, and I had worn a little cami to bed. And then when I had pulled my shirt on, like, I raised my arms and like let it fall on my shoulders and my neck, it felt like fire on my back and my neck and my shoulders. And that was startling. The other thing that happened is that I had a rash on my belly, which was just really bizarre. And I just felt worse all over my body. So I went into the main house and I had something for breakfast. I don't even remember what it was. And a couple hours later, I'm like, I have to go lay down. And so I was going back out to the guest house, because that's where a couple of us were staying, in the guest house. And there's this little step to get up into the guest house. And I'll do a picture here. My knees hurt so bad that it was difficult navigating that step. And keep in mind, my knees have not hurt since 2 weeks on Zepbound. And it was very upsetting. And I started to think about all the things that my daughter had said before about fibromyalgia. So I gave her a call and I told her everything that happened. And she said, Mom, I thought you had fibromyalgia 2 years ago. You just didn't want to put it together. I'm thinking, well, thanks for letting me know. And I'm like, you did? And she's like, yeah. And so she starts sending me screenshots of people talking about a fibro flare, and it seems to fit. So I felt a little bit better the next day, and then the next day I came home on Monday and was very uncomfortable on the ride home on Monday, but I was feeling better. Tuesday morning I woke up and I thought, okay, I'm feeling better, but Tuesday, my grandson came over and he was over for a few hours and I was watching him and I wasn't even picking him up that much. And by Tuesday night, I felt like my whole body had been hit by a train. Even my hands hurt. I didn't make dinner that night because Tuesday's my fast day and I don't make dinner. I don't even think I would have been able to make dinner that evening. I was in so much pain. So took Wednesday and Thursday, pretty much stayed in bed Wednesday and Thursday. Friday I felt better. And I actually saw Marielle, who had the same masseuse I did right after I did. And I asked her, I said, Marielle, are you still sore from the massage? And she said, no. Are you? I said, yes. She said, and what does your doctor say? So I got that message. And my daughter also had told me already, talk to my doctor. And my husband told me already, talk to my doctor. So that's my plan. I had not set an appointment as of Friday. And I did have an appointment set for today, which is Thursday, almost a week later. And my doctor canceled the appointment. She had a family emergency. And that's one of the reasons why I haven't done this video until tonight, because I was thinking I would talk to her and I would be able to explain better what my doctor says, and I would have maybe a better idea of what's going on. I don't know. This is really weird for me and I haven't wrapped my head around it yet. I don't know what I have. I don't know if this is permanent. I don't know if this is going to go away. I don't know if I'm overreacting. I don't know if I'm underreacting. I'm having a really difficult time wrapping my brain around this. And I was kind of hoping I would talk to my doctor today, but she had a family emergency. So I have set an appointment for, I think it's next Tuesday. And I hope to talk to her then. And I'll see what she says and see what she thinks, and I'll go from there. If you have made it this far, kudos to you, And thank you. I genuinely appreciate the support. I I really do, because I'm at a loss here. And I guess that's it until I talk to my doctor on Tuesday, and I'll add that with my weigh in next week, and I'll let you know what she says and how it's going. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Okay. Bye.